everybody. Hey, welcome back. So this is a Remington Portable. I think it's 1920 is the date on it. This was a typewriter we got last summer at one of our type-ins. It was a gift from one of the type-in visitors. And it's quite old, and the rubber parts are hard, of course. The platen really needs to be recovered. But the feed rollers were so bad that it was feeding paper crooked-like. And I didn't film this for you guys, but a few months ago, I figured out how to take out the feed rollers without too much problem, and I recovered them in heat shrink tubing. And as the old saying goes, it helped a whole lot, but didn't fix the problem. Well, it feeds paper better, but the paper still kind of skews as it goes through the machine. So I was down at my local typewriter repair shop of John Lewis and just happened to mention, do you have any better feed rollers for the Remington Portable, or do you have some tubing I can buy off you? And he had a bag of some recently recovered, I think they've been recovered recently, feed rollers for the Remington Portable he gave me. So let's take this apart at least far enough that we can replace the feed rollers. This will be a little tutorial, a little bit. We're going to both learn as I go, so hopefully you'll get something out of this. Stay tuned. Okay, so we're going to unlock carriage and move the carriage to the left here. There are 4 bolts that we have to remove in order to remove the typewriter from its base, like right there. There's 2 in the front on either side of the space bar. The typewriter lifts off of the base like that. Okay, now to take out the platen, we're going to remove the platen. The right platen knob, this typewriter only has one platen knob, it's the right one, and there is a set screw. This set screw goes not only through the collar of the knob, but it goes through a hole in the shaft, so you have to take the screw out completely. So it helps to have like a small pair of tweezers or a small needle nose or whatever. Remove the screw, don't lose the set screw. On the left side, this collar, there is a little arm that goes in the little slot of that collar, and this is operated by this lever back here, which is your carriage locking lever. So what we want to do is push this lever up to release this arm from the slot, and that'll give us freedom to push that shaft from the right side toward the left. And here we can remove the shaft from the platen itself. It just comes out through the left side like that. So on the left side there is a screw holding down the paper guide right here. And again, it's nice to have a little tweezer or something. And that there is a square nut which just fell off. Not a square nut, a triangular nut that holds on that screw. So don't lose those. So again, you'll have to grab a hold of that little triangular nut. Okay, there's the screw. The nut fell down inside the platen somewhere. We'll get it in a second. But basically here we're going to remove the scale like that. We need to take off the paper guide here. So we're going to loosen, I don't know if you loosen or just remove completely. It just loosens those 2 screws, and the paper guide will pull out behind the vibrator like that. Now, in theory, the platen will remove like that. Okay, so here you can see the 4 larger rollers in the back that we have to replace, and these smaller ones in the front that we have to replace. I have the machine propped up like this so you can see the back of it. So these 4 larger rollers are on 2 brackets, 2 sets of 2, and they have a pivot point right here in the middle of the bracket where the bracket can freewheel and kind of self-center on the platen roller itself. So there's a pin running through each one of these sets, and the trick is you have to push the pin toward the outside of the machine from the inside. So we're going to try to get a tool in here. It's kind of pressed into this bracket. Right here you can see this splined end of the shaft, and we're going to pull out the shaft toward the right side of the machine, which is toward the left side of your screen. And as I pull this shaft out, the one roller falls out, which is cool. And then now you have to work the shaft out past the right side of the carriage like that, and you have both rollers. So I had covered these in shrink tubing, but the shrink tubing just is a little too hard. It's not grippy enough and doesn't really feed right. Okay, here are the 4 rollers, the big rollers that we got from John Lewis. He's apparently put fresh rubber on these, which is cool. By the way, we should probably clean this rod with alcohol. We'll do that now. All right, so now we're going to put this clean rod through the bracket, and then we're going to try to hold the roller in place, run the rod through it, and then the rod's going to run through these 2 parts of the bracket. It gets a little tighter as you do this. Let's see here. There it is. And it goes, starts to feed into the other half now. And then we will try pushing the rod more in like that. And we keep feeding it. I think I'm going to use the needle nose to kind of force it. And now it needs to go through this right-hand bracket here. You can see it's still sticking out on the left here. So, and now the spline part of this shaft, you have to just seat into the bracket fully. And you might have to force it a little bit with the pliers like that. Okay, so that set is done. Now we have to do this set. So the same idea, we're going to push the rod out toward the left side, toward the outside of the carriage, and we have to overcome the force of that spline shaft. This one's a little easier to pull out. Okay. Pull it out. Here's the one roller. And pull this out some more. And you have to kind of rotate this bracket enough so that you have room. So the problem's going to be that the shaft won't be able to come out all the way because it's going to hit these levers on the left side. So what you want to do is kind of rotate the pivot point of this bracket here. So this is going to go through a hole, a slot in the left carriage frame, like that. See that? It'll come out that way, which gives you a little bit room to play with it. Let me clean the shaft. I'm going to degrease the shaft here, clean it so that the rollers will turn a little bit more freely. Yeah. All right, so now we have to kind of go back in the same direction we started. And by the way, the spline end of the shaft goes to the outside of the carriage on both sides. So here we go. Push in the new roller. Get the shaft through the middle bracket. Then you have to start feeding it with the pliers. And then get our other roller. And now we will push that shaft in and get it into the last part of there. And then we will seat the spline end into the bracket like that. Okay, that's not too bad right there. Okay, I have to get this shaft pushed out of the brackets just like on the other one, but they're a little tight. So I'm just going to use a little block and a little sharp tool. And right here, if I can turn this around for you. Okay, so what I'm trying to do here is to pull this shaft out toward the outside of the carriage. Got a little bit of it sticking out. Now I can pull it. There's the first roller. And the second roller right here. And I'm going to try to clean this pin up. So when John gave me these rollers, these ones were still mounted on their bracket, so I'm going to have to pound out the pins the same way on this one. There it goes. Okay, here's two of them. So I didn't notice, by the way, any spline end on these like on the other set. The ends look the same, so I don't think there's any preferential direction that it goes in, at least on this one. Let's see here. So we'll get the first roller put in, push the shaft through, keep pushing the shaft through. Feels a little stiff there. And now you want to go to the next part of the bracket to where the other roller is, get it started, which is a little tricky. Okay. And okay, there it is, starting to come through the opening. So now I'm going to put the other roller in and push the shaft with the end of my screwdriver to get it into the roller. Ah, there we go. And there. Okay. So the way I got these pins out on this bracket is I had to get my little file, little pointed file, kind of situated something like that. And then I have to smack the end of this with a tool. And the idea is just push the pin out enough to where you can now grab it with the pliers. There we go. Okay, here's our new rollers. Okay, so the tricky part about pounding out this one is the direction I'm hitting it is against the escapement star wheel teeth, loose dogs and all that. In other words, I don't want to hit too hard. Oh, it came out without me having to hit it. Good. The pin is loose enough that I can just kind of pull. There we go. There's one of them. Out the left side. There it is. There's the other one. That was pretty easy. And again, I don't see any spline end on either one of these smaller pins on the front rollers. So I will try to put them back in the same orientation, however. So we'll start the pin in the bracket, put the roller in. And okay, part way. Now to try to get it some more to the other one, to start it on the other roller bracket. Now let's put the other roller in, and then we can try pushing the pin in. There we go. Looks like it went in. There are our rollers. Very cool. Okay, so you're going to want to clean up the platen, obviously, before you put it back in. Goes underneath the vibrator a little bit, and then you have to get the ratchet there connected underneath the pressure roller. And you want to degrease, clean the center rod, and maybe put a really light coat of oil on it. So again, we're going to have to push this little lever to release this lever from interfering with the hole. And we put the rod in with the screw end in first. Try to get the center hole of the platen lined up, which doesn't always line up easy. Like that. Push it through, and then it'll go all the way into that opening, and then if you flip it around to look to the other side, now you have, this is the locking feature. Lock, unlock, right there. So now we're going to install the knob. So you have a screw hole in the knob. You should have this channel pointing up with a hole there. Line up those two holes. Get your little tweezer or whatever tool you like to use and get that. It looks like the tip of this screw is almost like a needle. It's very fine. Fine meaning small, thin. I'm blocking the camera view, I realize. All right, so now you can lock and unlock the carriage. That turns, very good. All right. So now we're going to have to reinstall all of our guides that we had earlier, our type guide and the little scale and the little triangular nuts holding that paper scale in place. So this slides down in here. There's a screw, a bracket, and then a thin washer. And those two things go underneath that washer like that. And then you have an adjustment laterally back and forth and up and down. So once we get everything together, we can adjust this so that the scale is right at the bottom of the typing line, which is the bottom of the lowercase characters, and laterally back and forth so the lines are right in the middle. And I want to make sure that the vibrator moves freely. It does. Okay, this is how I adjust the typing guide, the little typing scale. So I want to first type a whole row of letters. I use like lowercase h and I alternating. I want to have the top of the guide is even with the bottom of the letters, and the lines on these guides should be even with the letter I, and that should get you really close. And then of course you want to make sure that it's even horizontally from left to right also, and you can check that by looking at this play here between the paper scale and the typing guide, and just make sure on both sides that that stays about the same on both left and right side. So it was a fun job replacing these feed rollers. Now, I didn't show you how to recover them. I had just put some heat shrink on them, but John Lewis uses automotive rubber tubing of various kinds, and you really have to kind of go to the auto part store and match up the inner diameter as well as the outer diameter. But he buys it in bulk, and then he has a bunch of different sizes. And anyway, that's what you do. You have to just cut off the old rubber off the brass core, find the right size tubing, put it on there, and away you go. I was lucky that he had those parts and he was willing to let me have them. So one of the lessons here is it's really good to have a working relationship with a local typewriter repair shop in your area. Not everybody is fortunate enough to have a typewriter shop in their own town. You may have to go over a few towns over, a few counties over, or a few states over perhaps, depending on your situation. But anyways, if you do have a local typewriter repair shop, make sure you support them and keep them in business so they can help you. It's nice having this old Remington Portable. It's a 4-bank from the early 1920s, and it'll be fun to use it. Well, as always, I hope you get a lot of fun out of your typewriters, and stay creative and have yourselves a great day. Bye-bye for now.